Hello, everybody, and welcome to the power rankings for Season 2 of the Freak Club Baseball League. We've got 8 teams coming up this season, and as I am no longer running a team, I can be unbiased in my opinions fully. So what I wanted to do this season is start off by ranking the teams, give an update on what players they have, and sort of just explain what I think they're going to do this season, roughly how good they are, just based off their roster, and where I think they're going to end up at the end of the season. So, without further ado, let's get started with who I think is unfortunately is my 8th seed when it comes to my power rankings. And unfortunately, I think that has to be the Megan Muscles. Megan is coming in to replace me this year, the Sylvia Fireballs, and she is taking on Wario as her captain to become the Megan Muscles. She opted not to keep any players from that previous roster during the keep phase. However, she does maintain quite a few players, or a couple players from that original Fireballs roster, notably Schnorbus, Airbud, and Yellowtoad. Not like the star players on that team, but not bad players at all. I think in general, this team is really strange. I think it is my vote for the strangest roster we've seen so far. There's like 9 pitchers on this team or something, because let me count, because there's Wario, Waluigi, Yellow Magikoopa, Boo, Flingus, and then all 3 Yellow Me's on this team could also, the pitching is their best stat, so that's like 8 potential pitchers on this team. One thing that this team does have going for it is we've talked about the pitchers, but we've also got probably a pretty strong defense with a lot of yellow and purple synergy. I think the main thing the main thing this team is lacking, I think, is firepower. I think Wario's probably the only consistent power hitter on this team. There is Yellowtoad, could potentially do pretty well. And then Tony Goblin and Fake Daniel, the purple Me's on this team, they have high hitting stats with our new modded Me system. The only thing is they're unproven, so we don't know how good they're going to do here. I think this team is a little just all over the place with everyone they have. I mentioned 8 pitchers. There's also over half the team is Me's, who, yet again, they're all changed this year, so unproven. Despite all the negatives I've listed, I think this team is going to be incredibly entertaining to watch. I am excited to see what lineup this team runs and how well they do compared to the other teams, because while I have them here at the 8th seed, I don't think they're a shoo-in for the 8th seed. I think they can compete pretty well with some of the other teams in this league. Now coming up for my 7th seed in my power rankings, I have the Hazzy Bows. Hazzy is coming in to replace Thomas, the previous Thomas Bows, and despite not keeping any players from the previous roster, this roster looks even more similar to the previous one than the Mega Muscles. They're running the Bows with Birdo as the captain again. This team is going once again into a lot of the pink characters. We see Hazzy pick up 2 of the pink Miis with Haru Urara and Sakura Bakshino. We also see Purple Toad and Pink Toad, I believe, are on the previous roster. Red Shy Guy, I believe, as well. I do think the most notable thing for this roster has to be picking up Firebro and Blue Drybones. Both these players were in the grand finals of last year. Firebro was on the winning team. Toadette was also technically on the winning team, so two previous champs, although one was sitting on the bench. The thing is that despite having Blue Drybones and Firebro, who are very good offensive players, on top of Birdo, that's three good offensive players there. There is no synergy with Blue Drybones and Firebro, which means they're going to go for those power hits, those charge hits, with no additional synergy to boost them. Not to mention they're not going to have any synergy when on the defense. You will have Birdo, who's going to have a ton of synergy. 2 Pink Knees plus Shy Guy should be big for Birdo to get some good plays in there. Not to mention Birdo is a great pitcher herself. I think the real strength of this team is going to be on its defense, because you have a lot of pink characters for that synergy, not to mention a lot of very fast, very high fielding, or a lot of characters with a high fielding stat, specifically Sakura Bakshin, Haru Urara, Pink Yoshi will be good out there in the field. I think Red Shy Guy also should be a surprisingly good player if he ever gets played. I think the main problem is that you don't really want to be just a defensive team. You need to have a strong offense in order to get points on the board, and unfortunately I think there's a lot of teams that have just a stronger offense here. One thing that is quite notable though here for the Bows, the Hazzy Bows, is that there's a lot of fan favorite players on this team. Haru Urara, Baby DK, nicknamed Punch. We also have Blue Drybones, nicknamed Dive Bones. 3 players right there that were very fun to watch last year. I think there's also potential for a lot of other fan favorites here. I think Autism Creature and Bakshin could be up there. Another just funny thing that's on this roster is it has 2 nominees for Worst Player of the Year last year, with Toadette and Purple Toad. So I think this team looks pretty solid, but I think the ceiling is just a little low on this team. I don't know if the Bows are going to go super far, but I think they're going to be a solid team. I think they're going to have a lot of fun players to watch. Surely a lot of popular players too, which is why I have them here at the 7th seed. Coming in at my 6th seed in the power rankings is the Blake Wilds. Now, unfortunately, with me putting Blake here, that means all 3 new people coming in this year, or this season, sorry, is all 3 new people are at the bottom of my power rankings, which I feel really bad for, but I'm trying to just give my raw opinions here, so unfortunately that's how the cookie's gonna crumble here. We have the Blake Wilds coming in to replace the Akio Monkeys, bringing in Donkey Kong this time to be the team captain. Also, Blake is the first team here to retain one of their players from the previous year. Donkey Kong was their only selection to keep, and they were able to keep him with a 90% chance to keep. Despite that, a lot of the same players are coming into this team, with Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, and Tiny Kong coming in. Also, Gray Shy Guy was on the previous roster. It is a Monkeys or a Kong favored roster. The main thing is they're missing Baby DK, which isn't a huge deal. He's not the strongest player, but Funky Kong is the main player you're going to be looking at who's missing on a Monkey Kong roster, because he is, next to Donkey Kong, one of the best power hitters in the game, and then also in the Monkeys lineup, or synergy tree I should say. without Funky Kong, you really only have Donkey Kong for those incredible power hits. He's a top 3 character for a reason. And then the rest of the monkeys, the Kongs, are just sort of solid slap hitters, solid fielders, which unfortunately I don't think is going to be good enough, especially with the general increase in power across the league. We do also, I'm focusing a lot on the Kongs here, but we also have some interesting picks for the rest of the roster. We've got some decent fielders in, Yellow Yoshi is the only like real outfielder, but some high fielding stats also in, what's her name? RoboGF, that's her name, White Me. We've also got, what's his name? Clutch Powers, sorry, blanking on stuff. Also Monty Mole technically was a great outfielder last year, however he was on a pretty poor roster overall. There's also some good pitchers here. I think it's notable that Toadsworth, the Fibbler, and RoboGF are all on this roster, all good pitchers. The only problem is I don't think we'll see a lot of them. We'll probably only see one because the game is going to prioritize Diddy Kong and Donkey Kong as team captains to come in to pitch, so we'll probably only see one of them to pitch. I don't think you'll get to see the whole pitching potential on this roster. Also, completely, my brain is not working for this section. I did say not a lot of fielders when it comes to the outside the Kong roster. My brain just, complete brain fart, forgot that the monkeys are good fielders. I'm like, where are the fielders on this team? Oh, it's the section I blinked out of my mind for some reason. Also, one last thing to throw in here is that Goku, also a very high hitting stat, although once again the Mii's a little unproven here. I think it's, most teams that have already solid hitters, having a good hitting Mii in there, taking the risk on that is not bad, but on a team like the Wilds here, where Donkey Kong is your only real strong hitter, that's a bit worried if you want to try to rely on Goku. Which leads me to my overall point with the Wilds, is that there's not a lot of good hitters on this team. I think it's really only Donkey Kong here, which we've seen him be a monster, but I don't know if he'll be able to carry this roster this year. And that's why I have them here at the 6th seed. Oh boy, let's see if I can do a little bit better here with the 5th seed in my power rankings. I have the Ophi Fireballs, or Ophelia Fireballs, depending on which name she goes with. We have the Ophi Fireballs are replacing the Gumi flowers from last year. Different name for the person, but same person as last year. So this is the same coach, GM, as the Gumi flowers, aka Ophi and Gumi are the same person. And this roster looks quite a bit different from the previous Flowers roster. I think it's really only Peach who is coming back. I think Blue Toad, I think, was also on that roster. But one other player who was attempted to be kept was Grey Dry Bones. Only person Ophi tried to keep, fortunately didn't. Rolled very unlucky on that 90% chance and didn't get to keep Grey Dry Bones. However, I still think Ophi got away with a pretty strong roster here. Blue Critter as a first pick gives a lot of power. Also Wiggler there, Mario, the two Toads, Blue Toad and Red Toad, I think will give this team a lot of power. Maybe not as much charge power or charge hit power as a lot of other teams, but certainly some very good hitters for slaps. Also, the big thing with this team here is lots of speed. Got 2 blue Miis, which have a high speed stat, 2 light blue Miis, which have an incredibly high speed stat. Toad's very fast, Wiggler, Yoshi very fast. Team's got a lot of speed, which will help in the defense for sure. Also, didn't even bring up Team over O, the pink Mii on this team. Has a very good speed stat as well. I think, if I'm being honest, this is my dark horse to go very far. I think this team has the potential to win it all. I think it's a very well-rounded team. The main thing I'm worried about is I'm going to throw a bit of shade here, but I don't know if Ophi is going to get the maximum out of this roster. I think Ophi changed her team up a lot last year or last season, and I never really felt like the players were in the optimal position, and I worry about that here with the fireballs. I think this roster should do a lot better than the flowers last year, but that's sort of just off of raw character, power, talent. I think Ophi will really need to lock in to get the most potential out of this team. I will say though, I mentioned it's a dark horse. This also might just be a team I'm cheering for in general. There's a lot of players I like on this team. There's a lot of characters I was planning to pick up when I was still intending to play this season. So in a way I can live vicariously through Ophi here. Not to mention she's taking on the org name, the Fireballs, with Mario as her team captain. Champion winning org. My previous org as well. Previous team name. So I'm going to be cheering for this team. We'll just have to see if they can go far here. Coming up here, we are now in the top half of this power rankings, the winning half, the top 4. And for my pick for the 4 seed here is going to be the Owen Knights. Owen, coming in from last year, went 0-10 as the Spitballs. This time, he is coming in with a much stronger roster. Also just looked at the tier list this time, so that certainly helped. There was an attempt from Owen to keep both Baby Daisy and Baby Luigi. Baby Daisy as first pick, Baby Luigi as second pick. Trying to keep them both. Unfortunately, got very unlucky and didn't get to keep either of them during the retention phase. However, Owen was able to pick them up late into the draft, so still on the same team despite their desire to leave, it seems. I am a big fan of what Owen has picked up here, picking up 2 Piantos, lots of green players for green synergy. It's going to improve the fielding a lot as well. Plus, Green Magikoopa, great infield defender we've seen. Green Toad should bring up some solid slap hits. Applejack also picking up her in the last round of the draft. I think if the team needs a little bit of more firepower, bringing in Applejack could be a solid choice. And then of course, Baby Daisy and Baby Luigi, they were great defenders last year. However, the question is, now that they're on a stronger roster, will they still look as good, or will they look now poor in comparison to the rest of the team? The main thing to the point I wanted to bring up that completely messed up is Owen so far is one of the only teams to participate in a trade, trading his first draft pick, actually Blue Pianta, to the J Eggs, and taking in Yellow Pianta from the J Eggs. And, you know, it's Pianta for Pianta. It's not a huge change, but I think it's a little bit more in the favor of the eggs, just wanting to bring back blue Pianta. But as a small thing, yellow Pianta was on a part of that champions winning roster from the Fireballs, so potentially trying to bring in some big names, bring in some experienced players from the big stage. I think this team is going to have a very strong defense with a lot of great fielders, and I think a solid offense here with the Piantas, who are going to also have synergy here with Green Noki to help improve those hits, which I think should help a lot here. Not to mention all of the green players on this team are also going to get increased hitting thanks to the synergy. I think that while I would put, I think this Owens Knights roster looks very similar to some of these other teams I've put below them. I think the Ophi Fireballs has a similar number of power hitters, strong defense. Blake Wilds, even the Hazubos, have a similar build with a couple good hitters, mostly defenders. But I think what brings me to favor the Knights here is that I think Owen has done a lot of research, plus he's played in the league, so I think he's going to have one of the most optimized rosters here from the defense favoring teams, and I think he just has a stronger defense here than most of the other teams. I think that the Green Lees will have, well, they're not as fast as someone like the Ophi Fireballs. I think the Green Lees are going to have a super strong throwing arm thanks to their increased fielding stat. I also think Green Shy Guy, Green Magic Koopa can put in work in that infield. Baby Daisy, Baby Luigi, put them into infield or outfield. I think they'll show up. I think this Owen Knights roster could have the potential to go pretty far in the playoffs in the regular season, but I think I'm putting it below all of these, or these top three teams, due to these teams above the Knights having just a bit more firepower, which we'll get into in just a sec here. Now, top three teams. By process of elimination, you already know who these teams are, and if you were only looking at the top team from last year, you'll probably recognize some names here. Starting off here with our third seed in my power rankings, we have the Jewel Flowers, changing from the Jewel Muscles, this time bringing in Daisy to be the team captain, and another roster that is looking very similar to last year. Jewel was attempting to keep, I might have to actually check, because I know he was trying to keep King K. Rool, Green Critter, and PD Piranha. There was one other character I don't think she was able to keep. Sorry, I gotta go check my notes. By notes, I mean Discord server. No, it was just those three. No, sorry, I'm an idiot. Green Magic Koopa. It was King K. Rool, Green Crater, Green Magic Koopa, and PD Piranha Jewel was trying to keep. And she missed out on Green Magic Koopa, but she was able to keep three incredibly strong hitters in King K. Rool, Green Critter, and PD Piranha. And then on top of that, getting power hitters like Brown Critter as her first draft pick, and then King Boo also getting them back on the team, I think keeps this team as a super power hitter heavy team. Not to mention, I think the defense has improved a lot here. I think Daisy is going to bring a lot of pitching and fielding that this team needs. Not to mention Carr and Lua, the Green Mies, should provide necessary synergy in the outfield to get those buddy jumps. And then you've also got characters like the red Yoshi and light blue Yoshi, even mono blue player could bring a lot of speed in the outfield. Red Magic Koopa, I don't know if I mentioned them yet, can bring in good pitching and then also good infield defense. Blue Bird has good synergy with a lot of the monster characters on this team or enemy characters. So while he might not be the best player, you could bring him in for some synergy. The main point here is that there's a lot of different ways this team can go, and I think no matter what, you're going to have a good offense and a good defense. It's a scary looking team. The main thing that I think is holding this team back is going to just be Jewel isn't really here to win it all. Jewel's someone here who is participating to have fun, watch their team play, just really enjoy it. And because of that, I don't think Jewel is going to be trying to optimize every little thing about this roster. And I think that might just fall short from some of these more optimized, more I think raw power. I think a lot of these teams just have maybe, it's super strange to say that there's teams that have more raw power than this Flowers roster. I might have said muscles, I'm sorry. The Jewel Flowers, to be clear, is what this team is called. And yeah, I think this team it's a pretty solid pick for a high placing team, but I don't think they're going to be able to go all the way. I think we might also even see some teams that have on paper might not be as good as the Flowers. I think I said muscles again, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think there's some teams that on paper might not be as good as the Flowers here, but from just being optimized more, I think they might be able to take off some upset victories against this Flowers team. I almost said muscles again. Oh boy, this is what happens when you just not improv, but just kind of jump in and say whatever comes out of my mouth. Man, I'm good at this. With that out of the way, we are going into the second seed, the top two here. This is a title contender for sure, not just from their own power, but just, you know, they're going to be there at the second seed. I'm worried I woke someone up. I'm doing this late at night. Sorry if I got quiet there. My brain is exploding. But you know, it's not exploding here. It is the J-Eggs. They're back. Same name, same coach, strikingly similar roster. We have, just pretty much a almost one-to-one roster, incredibly similar. There was an attempt to start off and make it similar, trying to keep Red Critter, Blue Critter, and Funky Kong. Red Critter, Funky Kong, Blue Critter in that order. Gotta keep Red Critter and only Red Critter, sorry. Did not manage to keep Blue Critter or Funky Kong. However, using Jay's first draft pick, he is going to pick up Funky Kong once again, which, I mean, Red Critter, Funky Kong, both MVP contenders. Red Critter taking MVP of the last year. Super beneficial power hitters to have on the team. Not to mention bringing back Hammer Bro, Blue Magic Koopa, Blue Noki, and Blue Pianta. Tons of extra power there with Hammer Bro and Blue Pianta. Originally it was Yellow Pianta, I mentioned earlier with the trade, but bringing back that specific Pianta, the eggs are going to have a familiar face here. And then defense, Noki, we saw them, Blue Noki be a great defender in the outfield last year. We also have Red Noki coming in from the Bose roster last year, I believe. They're going to bring in some extra potential synergy here. Maybe more speed in the outfield. We'll see how the year goes, what the Eggs decide to run as their roster. And of course, we know how good the Magic Koopas are in that infield defense. We do also have a new face coming in. We have Green Dry Bones from that title-winning Fireballs roster. He's going to bring even more firepower to this team, I believe. Yeah, because there wasn't a Dry Bones on this roster last year. Let me actually check last year's roster. Who's missing? Oh, Blue Critter, of course. The main power hitter that Green Dry Bones is going to be replacing is Blue Critter, and overall I might even say that's a bit of a boost. I think having a bit more variety here instead of just having 2 critters. I think Green Dry Bones has the potential to bring something new to this team. Also completely forgetting to bring up the fact that Yoshi is on this roster once again, as if it wasn't quite obvious with the fact that the Eggs will be this team's name once again, have Yoshi running as the captain here. Will be unfortunately not the strongest player on this roster, but we might definitely see some good defensive plays, bring in some solid pitching. Just needs to do the bare minimum here. He's got so many great players around him to back him up. Speaking of great players, we have 3 of the Red Knees coming to this Eggs roster in the form of Omni-Man, Hornet, and Azek Armin. Me of the Year last year adds even more name value to this team. They're all going to have their batting stats increase slightly, and they're also going to have a lot of good synergy here with this team. With Red Noki and Red Critter, and not to mention the fact that male and female Mews have synergy with the same colors of themselves. So Azek Armin and Omni-Man are also going to have synergy with Hornet, so you could even run like triple Red Me here, which would be an interesting way to go, but I doubt we're going to see that just due to the fact that you'd have to take out some of the power hitters here for the Eggs to make that work. If there's anything that might drag this Eggs roster down, is the fact that the 3 Red Me's are basically the same characters stat-wise, so if there's a chance this Eggs roster needs to diversify, needs to change their lineup, they're not going to have as much roster depth here. But I think that is worst case scenario here. We saw this team do incredibly well last year, getting the #1 seed in the regular season, unfortunately only falling short to the champions, had only 3 losses to the future champions, plus to the Jewel Muscles, who were the 2nd seed. So based on that alone, this team should be really, really good, and their main weakness last year being the lack of synergy in the outfield should be fixed with the Red Me's coming in. So expect great things from this Eggs roster. Finally here at the #1 seed in my power rankings. You should know it by process of elimination, but if you don't, it is another returning team here. We have the Daniel Monsters. Same coach, same team name. Holy shit, this roster looks both familiar and even more scary than last year. We have Bowser, best character in the game. Bowser Jr. was a surprisingly great hitter, great pitcher, backup too to Bowser. Those 2 alone are bringing great pitching and great hitting to this team, but then you add Dark Bones, Gray Dry Bones, Boomerang Bro. There's a lot of firepower on this team. To go over, who's kept on this team, we have Bowser Jr., Dark Bones, and then Blue Dry Bones were the picks that Daniel wanted to keep in that order. Fortunately, Blue Dry Bones, Dive Bones does not make a return to this Monsters roster, but needing to keep 3 incredible players like Bowser Jr., and Dark Bones is huge for this team, not to mention that despite being in the 6th round of the draft, Daniel gets to pick up another Dry Bones to replace Dive Bones and Grave Dry Bones, and then picking up Boomerang Bro in the 7th round of the draft. He had a bad year last year, but he was also not on a great team with any synergy. Now that he's on a team with a lot of synergy, he should be looking incredible. I think, you know, at the start of the draft, I was a bit worried. I saw Daniel picking up the Paracoopas early on, which I thought, you know, they're good defenders. They were great on the team last year, but I think there's a lot of great fielding options. You don't really have to start out your drafts going with that. But then the fact that you were able to get power hitters down the line, and then on top of that, Daniel was able to get all 4 Koopa Troopas, means this team has so many power hitters, as I've mentioned over and over again in just the past 2 minutes. Getting the Koopas as well is going to increase the synergy all around the board, going to increase the hits from each of the Koopas themselves, but also they have synergy with almost everyone else on this roster as well, with the Dry Bones, with Bowser Jr., Boomerang Bro. It's just a synergy heavy team. Everyone's going to be having increased charge hits. Everyone's going to be having items at every hit. Scary offensive team. And that's not even mentioning how there's a great fielding with the Koopas. I vaguely mentioned it before, but then pitching as well, I mentioned that very specifically. And then Boomerang Bro also should bring some good infield defense with his super dive, his extended grab. Yeah, I think just this team has everything. It is so incredibly scary. Not to mention, this team, while only getting 3rd seed in the regular season, went all the way to the grand finals, and while they didn't get stomped, they didn't play the closest game, but still just getting there is incredible on its own. And the fact that this roster looks similar, it just an improved version of it, that is a great sign for this team. This team should be, I think, really aiming for one of those top 2 seeds in the regular season. I think anything lower than that should be a little bit worrying for such a promising roster. You also might notice I haven't really mentioned the rest of this roster here with the Goombas, Paragoomba, Goomba, and then the Toomies, Shamgar, and Boy Kisser. I mean, not bad picks either. There is still synergy here between Shamgar and the Goombas, and then Boy Kisser with Great Dry Bones. You could bring them in, but I don't think they are going to bring the same synergy level as the Koopas, who you're probably looking to replace, if anyone. I just don't see them coming in, but if they do come in, I don't think they'll be bad. Boy Kisser can bring some extra pitching if you need it, extra infield defense. Shamgar, good offense as well, increased thanks to the modding. It's really just the Goombas you probably don't expect to be in there, just from being pretty low tier characters. That aside though, I think every team's going to be scared going up against the monsters here. And there we have it with my Freak Club Baseball League Season 2 power rankings. It's a bit all over the place, a bit messy, my first time doing this, also without a script in general, so sort of just speaking off the top of my head, probably missed some stuff. I mean, for sure messed stuff up, speaking just in general. Apologies for that, but thank you for listening all the way to the end here. I am super excited for this upcoming season. I have a lot of the people here who are returning are super excited to come back, and then the new people coming in also seem super excited, so I'm honored to be able to host this. Super excited to run this, also just to be unbiased. It's going to be fun, give my pure unfiltered thoughts, don't gotta even think about if it's if it is biased towards my own team or not, just getting to focus purely on the game. And I think also with more people understanding the game, I think the overall level of performance is going to be increased. I think there's going to be a bit more change-ups in the standings. I think maybe even some more trades, mid-season roster changes. Hoping for that to shake things up. I think that should be fun if it comes. And then I think it's also worth noting, I believe I'm putting, I think when it comes to the two conferences, Group A and Group B, renamed to the Solar Conference and the Lunar Conference, respectively, I think the Lunar Conference is going to look a lot stronger. It has Owen, Daniel, and Jewel, who are all in the top 4, and then Hazzy, who, like I said, not the worst team, but maybe a little bit below the other players or other teams in her conference. While I think the Solar Conference was definitely looking like the stronger group last year, this time I think the power levels decreased a bit with the Megan Muscles, Ophi Fireballs, and Blake Wilds all being in my bottom 4. Only person who is up there is the J Eggs, who might be able to get might be a bit of a thrashing whenever Jay plays a in-conference game. This might be a little presumptuous, but maybe 6 free wins for the Eggs this year, thanks to the in-conference games. But we don't know. We play the games for a reason, not just predict off this top and pick that team to get the win. We've seen some crazy upsets before. We saw a 4th seed go all the way to the championship. So anything can happen here. This is just my predictions, me sharing my thoughts on the rosters. Not to mention, this is only the start of the season rosters. We have no idea what's going to change going into the future. But with that, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the league. See you guys later today, actually. Games are going to start. See ya then. Bye-bye.